The person you care about may have been trying to reach you every single day without ever saying the words out loud. The unsettling truth is that their most important message might never come through conversation. Instead, it may be hidden inside their silence. Behind every disagreement, every moment of emotional distance, and every confusing reaction, there is often a deeper truth waiting to be uncovered. Once you begin recognizing this hidden language, you may finally understand what they have been trying to communicate all along. Take a moment to look beyond what is spoken. People rarely expose the deepest parts of themselves directly. More often, the heart expresses itself through emotions, repeated behaviors, subtle habits, and unspoken signals. Someone who constantly asks for your attention may not simply want more of your time. Deep down, they may be wondering, am I truly important to you? Likewise, a person who suddenly pushes you away is not always rejecting you. Sometimes, they are protecting a wounded part of themselves that fears being hurt once again. This is the quiet language of the unconscious, the invisible conversation taking place beneath everything we say and do. Every individual carries a rich inner world filled with memories, hopes, fears, longings, and emotional experiences that are rarely expressed openly. Much of the time, people don't even realize that these hidden feelings are shaping the way they communicate, react, love, withdraw, or connect with others. The unconscious reveals itself in countless ways. It speaks through recurring behaviors, emotional reactions, body language, dreams, instinctive responses, and familiar patterns. Someone may insist that everything is fine, while every action they take reflects exhaustion, sadness, or an unspoken desire for support. Another person may suddenly become distant, not because their feelings have disappeared, but because an old fear has quietly resurfaced. Others seem to lose their temper over insignificant events, yet the anger itself is rarely the real issue. It is often only the visible expression of pain that has remained buried for years. The reaction is merely the surface. The deeper message lies underneath. Unlike the logical mind, the unconscious communicates through emotion. A persistent feeling of discomfort around someone, the same relationship conflict repeating itself, or an unexpectedly powerful reaction to certain words can all reveal something important about what is happening beneath the surface. These experiences invite us to become curious rather than accepting appearances at face value. To survive difficult experiences, people often build protective identities. They learn to appear confident, self-sufficient, or emotionally unaffected, while quietly hiding the parts of themselves that feel fragile. But those hidden parts never disappear. They continue searching for recognition, revealing themselves through relationship choices, conflict, emotional triggers, and moments that touch long-forgotten fears. Learning this hidden language is not about judging or trying to control another person. Instead, it asks us to become more aware and compassionate. Rather than asking, why are they acting like this, we begin asking a deeper question. What emotion or experience could be living beneath this behavior? That single shift changes everything. It allows us to see others as complex human beings instead of reducing them to their actions alone. The unconscious is always trying to bring forgotten parts of ourselves into the light. It continually points toward emotions that have been ignored, wounds that remain unresolved, and truths that have yet to be acknowledged. As we become more sensitive to these hidden messages, we develop a richer understanding not only of the people we love, but also of ourselves. No one standing before you is simply a collection of words, decisions, or behaviors. Every person carries an emotional story waiting to be understood. One of the clearest ways this inner world reveals itself is through repetition. Many people believe every choice they make comes from conscious thinking, yet countless reactions are shaped by emotional experiences buried far below awareness. Whenever the same conflicts, fears, disappointments, or relationship dynamics continue repeating throughout life, they often point towards something within that still longs for healing and understanding. Silence is not always empty. Sometimes it holds emotions that have not yet found the courage to become words. A person who withdraws after conflict may not be trying to punish you or shut you out. They could be trying to make sense of hurt, disappointment, or inner confusion. In many cases, their silence is quietly saying, "There is something inside me that needs care and understanding." At other times, silence may reflect emotional fatigue, growing distance, or the realization that something within the relationship must change. Its meaning is never universal. It depends on the individual, the circumstances, and the history shared between two people. Simply noticing that someone has become quiet is not enough. The deeper question is what that quietness is trying to communicate. Too often, people rush to fill silence with assumptions. They interpret it as rejection, anger, or a lack of love. Yet what appears cold on the outside may actually conceal an intense internal struggle. Someone can look composed while privately carrying emotional battles that no one else can see. Learning to understand silence requires patience instead of quick conclusions. Rather than forcing answers or demanding explanations, we create space where another person feels emotionally safe enough to speak honestly. Some of the deepest conversations begin long before words are exchanged. They begin when someone realizes they are already being understood. Silence also reflects something about us. The discomfort we experience when another person becomes quiet may expose our own fear of abandonment, uncertainty, or losing control. By paying attention to these reactions, we learn as much about ourselves as we do about the other person. The conversations that never happen often contain the truths that are hardest to express. A person's silence may simply be asking for compassion, understanding, or the reassuring presence of someone willing to listen without judgment. Once we learn to hear what exists beyond spoken language, we discover that silence is not the absence of communication. It is often where the deepest emotional truths quietly wait to be recognized. If this perspective resonates with you, write, "I see beyond," in the comments. Stay with the Jungian path until the end, because the final insight may completely transform how you understand the people closest to you. One of the greatest puzzles of human nature is the gap between what people reveal and what they truly experience inside. Nearly everyone develops an identity they present to the world, one that helps them feel accepted, protected, or respected. That outward image may appear calm, successful, confident, or emotionally untouched, while a very different emotional reality exists beneath it. From an early age, many people learn to hide certain emotions. They may grow up believing that sadness should remain invisible, fear should never be admitted, or pain makes them weak. As those beliefs become deeply rooted, emotional defenses naturally form. These protective habits allow people to function while keeping their deepest struggles hidden from view. The person who always appears strong may secretly wish someone would simply ask if they are truly okay. The one who constantly makes others laugh may be carrying private grief behind every smile. Someone who seems emotionally detached may not lack love at all. They may simply fear being rejected. What we see on the surface is rarely the complete story. This difference between appearance and reality often creates unnecessary misunderstandings in relationships. We judge visible behavior while remaining unaware of the emotions driving it. Someone who seems angry may actually be deeply hurt. Someone who appears distant may be guarding themselves against future disappointment. Someone who refuses help may not be incapable of trust, but may have learned that depending on others once led to pain. The mind naturally creates emotional defenses to protect itself. Most of these defenses are not conscious choices. They develop through experience until they become automatic. A person may leave before they can be abandoned, hide their feelings before they can be criticized, or insist that everything is fine because facing the truth feels overwhelming. Recognizing the difference between outward behavior and inner reality allows us to respond with greater compassion. This does not mean excusing harmful actions or ignoring unhealthy behavior. Instead, it reminds us that every visible reaction usually has an emotional history hidden beneath it. Real connection begins when people no longer feel the need to hide behind carefully constructed masks. When we look beyond appearances, we begin to see what every human being quietly carries: unseen fears, private hopes, unresolved pain, and the desire to be accepted exactly as they are. The strongest person in the room may be the one most in need of comfort. The happiest face may conceal loneliness. Behind every expression, every reaction, and every role people play exists a human story waiting to be understood. Perhaps one of the deepest needs shared by every person is the desire to be genuinely understood. Beneath the pursuit of achievement, recognition, and success lies a quieter longing to be seen for who we truly are. Most people do not simply want others to notice what they do. They want someone to understand why they feel the way they do. Beneath frustration, sadness, or even anger is often a silent wish for another person to recognize their emotional reality. They are not always asking for solutions. Sometimes they simply want someone to acknowledge that what they feel matters. Every person carries an invisible world within them. Their fears, memories, hopes, disappointments, and unspoken dreams quietly shape the way they think, react, and connect with others. Yet these inner experiences are rarely visible. They are often concealed behind routines, emotional defenses, and the roles people have learned to play throughout life. Someone may project confidence while privately questioning their own worth. Another may appear fiercely self-reliant while secretly longing for comfort and reassurance. A person who seems difficult, distant, or emotionally unavailable may simply be carrying feelings they have never been taught how to express. This is the forgotten truth about human connection. People are always more than their worst moments, emotional reactions, or mistakes. The instant we define someone by a single action, we lose sight of the much larger story that shaped them. Real understanding asks us to look beneath behavior and recognize the human being who exists underneath it. Many relationships begin to drift apart because each person becomes focused on being understood instead of seeking to understand. We defend our own perspective, explain our own pain, and protect our own emotions, while forgetting that the person standing in front of us has an inner life just as rich and complicated as our own. Authentic connection begins the moment we make room for another person's experience without rushing to judge, correct, or dismiss it. That doesn't require agreeing with everything they say or do. It simply means recognizing that their emotions, experiences, and struggles are real, even when they differ from our own. Feeling understood creates safety. And safety is where honesty, trust, and vulnerability begin to grow. Often, the most meaningful expressions of love are surprisingly simple. Listening without interrupting. Remaining patient during difficult conversations. Remembering the small details that matter to someone. Choosing to be fully present instead of searching for the perfect words. These quiet acts communicate a message that every heart longs to hear. You matter. I see you. You don't have to hide here. Much of life is spent trying to earn acceptance. People work endlessly to prove their value, conceal their imperfections, and protect themselves from rejection. Yet beneath every defense lies the same quiet desire, to be loved without pretending to be someone else. Perhaps that is the message we have forgotten. Connection is never built on perfection. It is built on understanding. The more we learn to see beyond appearances, beyond defensive behaviors, and beyond the stories we immediately create about others, the more compassion naturally grows. We begin to recognize that every person carries invisible wounds, silent hopes, and unfinished chapters that deserve kindness rather than quick judgment. The deepest relationships are not created when two people finally become flawless. They are created when both people choose to truly see one another. When they stop trying to reshape each other into someone different and instead become curious about the inner world the other person has been carrying all along. In that moment, communication becomes something greater than words. It becomes genuine understanding. And genuine understanding is where lasting connection begins. Connection becomes something far greater than a simple exchange of words. It evolves into the quiet experience of feeling genuinely recognized, deeply appreciated, and completely understood. There is a profound difference between being heard and being understood. Many conversations end with both people believing they have communicated, yet each person walks away feeling unseen. Words alone cannot create closeness. True closeness is created when another person understands the emotions that gave birth to those words. Every human being longs for this experience, even if they never admit it. Beneath ambition, success, independence, and confidence exists a quiet desire to be known without having to constantly explain ourselves. We hope that someone will notice the exhaustion behind our smile, the fear hidden beneath our confidence, or the sadness concealed by our laughter. We long for someone who sees beyond our carefully constructed identity and recognizes the person who exists beneath it. This desire is not weakness. It is one of the deepest psychological needs of the human soul. Carl Jung often reminded us that much of human life unfolds beneath the surface of conscious awareness. We learn to wear masks that help us survive, succeed, and belong. These masks serve an important purpose, but over time they can become so familiar that even we begin to mistake them for our true identity. The tragedy is that many people spend years loving one another's masks, while never truly meeting each other's authentic selves. Think about how often misunderstandings begin. Rarely do they start because two people genuinely wish to hurt one another. More often, they begin because one person reacts from an old wound, while the other responds from a wound of their own. Neither person is responding only to the present moment. Both are unknowingly speaking through years of memories, disappointments, fears, and emotional experiences that continue living within them. An innocent sentence may awaken the memory of years spent feeling ignored. A delayed reply may stir a fear of abandonment that existed long before the current relationship. A simple disagreement may touch an old belief that love must always be earned through perfection. What appears to be conflict in the present is often a conversation between unresolved experiences from the past. This is why compassion changes everything. Compassion does not require us to excuse harmful behavior or abandon healthy boundaries. Instead, it asks us to remember that every visible action has an invisible history. Every defensive reaction once served as protection. Every fear was learned somewhere. Every emotional wall was built for a reason. People are rarely born afraid of intimacy, rejection, vulnerability, or failure. These fears are slowly constructed through experiences that taught them the world was not always emotionally safe. Some learned that expressing sadness invited criticism. Others discovered that asking for help resulted in disappointment. Many realized that revealing their authentic feelings exposed them to rejection. Eventually, the mind adapts. It learns to hide. It learns to withdraw before being abandoned. It learns to become emotionally independent before depending on someone who may eventually leave. What appears as emotional distance is often emotional self-protection. This understanding transforms the way we see relationships. Instead of immediately asking, "Why are they acting like this?" we begin asking, "What experience might have taught them that this behavior was necessary?" That single question replaces judgment with curiosity. Curiosity creates space, and within that space, understanding becomes possible. The same truth also applies to ourselves. There are moments when we react more strongly than the situation seems to deserve. We become defensive over a harmless comment. We feel unexpectedly anxious when someone needs time alone. We overthink silence, interpret neutrality as rejection, or assume the worst before evidence even exists. These reactions often surprise us because they seem disconnected from reality. Yet the unconscious rarely reacts to reality alone. It reacts to remembered emotion. It responds not only to what is happening now, but also to everything that has happened before. This is why self-awareness is such an important part of every meaningful relationship. Without it, we unknowingly ask other people to heal wounds they did not create. We expect them to provide constant reassurance for insecurities that began long before they entered our lives. True emotional growth begins when we gently ask ourselves difficult questions. Why does this situation affect me so deeply? Why does this particular fear continue appearing? What belief about myself is being activated right now? These questions are not meant to create guilt. They are invitations toward freedom. Because every unconscious pattern that becomes conscious loses a portion of its control over us. Awareness gives us something incredibly valuable: choice. Instead of reacting automatically, we begin responding intentionally. Instead of repeating familiar cycles, we create new possibilities. Little by little, our relationships stop becoming places where old wounds are endlessly repeated. They become places where healing quietly begins. This is one of the greatest gifts two people can offer one another. Not perfection, but presence. Not flawless communication, but honest communication. Not endless certainty, but the willingness to remain curious about each other's inner world. Every relationship becomes stronger when two people stop assuming they already know one another. Human beings are constantly changing. Every experience reshapes us. Every disappointment teaches us something. Every act of love softens or strengthens different parts of our character. To truly know someone requires seeing them again and again with fresh eyes, allowing them the freedom to continue becoming who they are, instead of imprisoning them inside old expectations. Perhaps this is what love has always been. Not possession, not certainty, not control, but the continual choice to remain curious about another human soul.